Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. A little bit of a shorter show, mostly because I have to, again, wipe all the egg off my face after I came on Monday's show and gave you an in-depth, detailed breakdown on how and why and which way Ohio State was going to win the national championship. Instead, the exact opposite happens. Final score, Alabama 52-24, as I said a minute ago. And there's really nothing else to say. It was just an insanely dominant performance for Alabama in one of the most insanely dominant seasons that I've ever seen, that we've ever seen as college football fans. And so we're going to break it all down momentarily. But before we get into all the details, first of all, before we go any further, just want to very quickly congratulate Alabama. We do have some Alabama fans. We got Alabama citizens that listen to this show. So congratulations on the school's 18th national championship. The 6th of the Nick Saban era, the 7th overall for Nick Saban, which now passes him for he passes Bear Bryant all time in the record books. And when you look at this game, I mean, look, we've seen some great Alabama performances in the past. Obviously, there was the Orange Bowl also in Miami against Notre Dame in 2013. That was about as dominant as you can be. There have been other ones more recent or less recently. When they played LSU in the championship game, I think the final score was 16-0. Wasn't quite the score that this was, but it was clearly a dominant effort from Alabama. But again, this was about as dominant as you can get in a game against another elite team that is an elite offensive team. And look, at the end of the day, we can all agree Ohio State was not at 100% in this game. We find out before the game that they had, 8, 10, 12 players missing, most specifically along the defensive line. Trey Sermon gets hurt in the first series, but none of it would have mattered. Alabama was absolutely, unquestionably the better team and absolutely, unquestionably the deserving champion. I mean, the box score is just incredible. 621 yards of offense, 464 yards passing, 157 yards rushing. And the crazy part was Alabama really let its foot off the gas about the middle to the end of the third quarter when they were up convincingly just trying to get this win. They also played, oh, by the way, without Devontae Smith for most of the second half, the Heisman Trophy winner. So when you talk about Alabama being down the Heisman Trophy winner in the second half of the national championship game, Jalen Waddle, who is also a first-round caliber wide receiver, being out for essentially the second half of the season, most of the national championship game. I think he played probably maybe 5 snaps or less. This was just a dominant game in every way, shape, and form. And I'll tell you when I actually knew it was over. It was probably earlier than even some people. And I say this as a guy who picked Ohio State. But on I guess it was Ohio State's second series of the game, they're down 14-7. Excuse me, it was Alabama's third series. Alabama was down. Alabama had the ball. They were up 14-7. Mac Jones fumbles. Ohio State goes ahead and scores to make it 14-14. And Alabama immediately gets the ball back and immediately scores. And that's when I knew it was over, because I knew all night that Alabama was not going to be stopped by that Ohio State defense. They were down a couple guys on the defensive line. But again, this isn't about who Ohio State was missing. This was about Alabama's definitive national championship. But when I looked at this game as a guy who picked Ohio State, when I saw right away that Ohio State had all the momentum coming off that fumble recovery, touchdown a few plays later to make it 14-14, and a few plays after that, Alabama scores to go up 21-14, that is when I knew it was over. In terms of a couple specifics from the game, first of all, I mean, to me, even though he didn't play for most of the second half, I still think it was Devontae Smith. This kid is incredible. He was a great ambassador for college football all year, and he showed on Monday night why he was, in fact, the Heisman Trophy winner. 12 catches, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns, completely unstoppable. The only thing that could actually stop him was an injury that brought him back to the locker room in the middle of the third quarter. But Ohio State had no answer for him. And listen, you could pick apart Ohio State's coaching schematics or whatever. I don't do that on this show. I don't breaking down X's and O's. If you want that, you go somewhere else. But when I look at this game, if Ohio State spent all week game planning for DeVonta Smith, had no answer for him, it just speaks to his greatness. And it really speaks to the fact that nobody had an answer for him all season. Notre Dame spent a bunch of time game planning for DeVonta Smith. They had no answer for him. Same with Florida. Same with LSU. Same with on and on and on and on and on. And so it is a testament to how great he is as a player. It appears as though it was a finger injury, a hand injury. It appears as though he's going to be okay. That is what's most important. But I also think we just have to give this kid credit and appreciate what he did this season in what was one of the single most dominant seasons by any non-quarterback that I think any of us have ever seen. Secondly, really quickly, want to give a quick shout out to Steve Sarkisian. Don't think you can possibly make any more money than being the soon-to-be Texas head football coach, because if you're good there, they'll just drop piles of cash on your front lawn. It doesn't get much better than what Steve Sarkisian did on Monday night. All game long, Ohio State had absolutely no answer for Alabama. As I mentioned, 641 yards of total offense. I know a lot of people say, well, he's not going to have DeVonta Smith and Najee Harris at Texas. That is true. But if you watch the game, and again, I don't claim to be an X's and O's expert, but he had Ohio State off balance all game long. He was finding all these creative ways to get DeVonta Smith the ball, to get Najee Harris the ball, to get the kid, what's his name, Sloan Stevens or something. Sloan Stevens is the gymnast, but Slade Bolden got a touchdown pass. I mean, Steve Sarkisian showed why Texas is so excited to have him, because he is a brilliant play caller. And this is why I talked about a few weeks ago when he got hired that I do believe that he is going to be successful at Texas. If he just focuses on offense, hires somebody to run the defense, and can recruit at even a half-decent level, I believe that they will compete with Oklahoma very soon for Big 12 titles. But Steve Sarkisian earned all the money on Monday night. He was, I think, the highest paid offensive coordinator in college football this year. And as I said, I hope he didn't sign that contract to Texas yet, because if he did not, I would go back to the tables tomorrow and say I need an extra $10 to $20 million on that contract because I was so awesome. So those are two big takeaways. I think some other takeaways, I mean, one, Alabama was just so dominant. I thought it was kind of funny about the middle of the third quarter that Alabama starts putting in its backups. Brian Robinson Jr., their second-string running back, got a bunch of reps. Their third, fourth, fifth wide receivers got a bunch of reps. It cracks me up that in a national championship game, Alabama is getting their backups reps. That just shows how dominant they were. Also, by the way, very quick shout-out to Notre Dame, who was more competitive with Alabama in the semifinal than Ohio State actually was in the final. Notre Dame probably proving that they belonged in the playoff. I think they did, but whatever. And then finally, just a very quick shout-out to Alabama itself. If you listen to last week's episode, I talked with Ryan Fowler about this, but Ryan really explained why this season was so important to Alabama. 2 years ago, really, it started. You lose to Clemson in the national championship game. You get destroyed in what was Trevor Lawrence's freshman season. He comes out and plays this incredible game that nobody could have seen coming. Then going into last year, you had all this momentum. You had all this excitement. You had all this built-up frustration from the previous offseason. Tua gets hurt. He's at less than 50%. You lose to LSU. He gets hurt again. He's out of the Auburn game. You lose to Auburn. And all of a sudden, you're talking about a team that had national championship aspirations that got beat by LSU, second best team in the conference. And it just feels like this whole team was motivated all offseason. Really, the last 2 years, had they been healthy, which I'll get to in a minute, I think you could have made a case they were maybe the second best team in college football last year, but it was clear they were motivated. And I'll tell you this, I watch a ton of college football. Y'all do, right? You wouldn't listen to this show if you didn't. I have never seen a team as locked in, as focused from game one, snap one, minute one as Alabama. Not saying that they were perfect, but what I will say is you talk about a team that just was so singularly focused on winning a national championship. I've never seen anything like it. And I think you could also make the case, by the way, as they won the national championship. I tweeted this out on Monday night. But you look at last year's Alabama team, Tua gets hurt the week before LSU. They lose to LSU 46-41, and history won't show it. But Alabama very well may have been the second best team in college football last year that we don't even acknowledge because they played LSU a lot closer than anyone did in the playoffs. So that was kind of